Yeah, thanks for the opportunity here. I just want to go back through a bit of history here because I think it is important. And firstly, I want to say, I have said to a few scientists that over my travels, this is probably the first opportunity I've had to really thank the researchers, scientists and everyone involved in the industry. And there's no one more passionate about where we've taken our industries, both terminals and maternals, than I am. And I just want to touch on a couple of dates before I get into my slides. So 1992 was a year I just wanted to start with, and it was the year I started with Jim Watts, and it was really where I seen the merino industry. We'd done a lot of work with the white Suffolks, and I see Langy and bloke sitting back there. It was a passionate group of people within the white Suffolks that could really see a big shift in the terminal industry. But I could see the merino industry had real issues, and I was actually left with running the merino stud in 1992 and was just about to get rid of the merinos because I'd seen no progress. It was really, and I didn't want to be part of a living museum, and that's the way I see the merino industry. So I got involved with Jim Watts and did a lot of work with skin biology because I could see that was an area we had to shift. So the next dot point was 2004. So with the work I'd done with Jim, and loved my time doing that, learning about skin biology. I've got no background in genetics or anything, it was just my passion for the industry, but we ceased mulesing in 2004, and that was, to me, the highlight. And the day mulesing is going to be the issue that will bring us undone. And before I go any further, these are my thoughts, not MLA's thoughts. I don't want to be hung and quartered here. But if mulesing is barbaric, like we can't sell it to one person in the cities, so it's a real issue and we have to seriously address it. And I can prove to you that by genetic selection, we can actually shift what we do and we don't need to do it. So I hate that debate. The next one is 2007. In 2007, we did our first JIVET program. I could see that the JIVET technology, by having generational turnover of 6.5 months, we could make serious changes to the industry. And I was super excited. So we did a JIVET program in 2007, but shock horror, the JIVET program worked, but our genetic selection was done on the old-fashioned stuff. We'd already started to build up a bit of data, but by 6.5 weeks when we're doing this, trying to do a JIVET program, I had no idea on these lambs. So it was really important. So we did it in 2007, and then we stopped the program. So the next milestone for me was in 2012. I was asked by the Sheep's RC to do a presentation at Lambex. So James asked me to go along, and the topic then was breeding for the future. And I could see, we'd done a bit of JIVET work with the 50K, and I could see that I could incorporate JIVET and genomics, and it was really the marriage made in heaven, and I could make serious genetic changes. So over that period before 2012, we'd made some quite significant changes in our sheep. We'd stopped mulesing, we'd increased, we had high growth, we knew we had high growth, we were battling a bit for fat and muscle. So it was actually then that we did the some analysis. So we were lucky to do a commercial genomics program. We did 250 that year. So it really gave us a handle. So in the group there was about 500. So we picked what we visually thought were the top few, and then we did randomly the others, the 250 on 15K. And I just want you to have a look at this, wrong one. I just want you to have a look at that figure there, all right, on this one. We'll do 3153. So back then, it identified for us that he was 8 for growth. So that was pretty good for us, and I was comfortable with that. But he was positive for fat. And we know that science tells us that if we increase fat and muscle together, that we will increase fertility, carcass yield, everything was heading in a positive direction. But you can see, with that sheep, he had brilliant fat and muscle. 2.5 for us. We were negative fat and muscle at that stage. So 2.5 for muscle was like, man, this is my white Suffolk of the merino industry. So straight away I had a sheep that I thought, wow, we can identify. So out of 250, we had this sheep that was, for us, quite brilliant. And does JIVET and genomics work? Is it bullshit? Have a look at the data here. This is now with 98, 97, 97% accuracy. Huge accuracies. 1,400 odd progeny in 13 flocks on these 2 rams. So we know it works. But look at the similarities here. I know the muscles increased slightly, the fat's gone up a fair bit, but the accuracies, because of the phenotype information that we've put in, has really, I could have assurance then, back in 2012, that the sheep we were going to breed for 2019 is going to do that. There's no bullshit in it. The one here, I just want to touch on this one here, because to me this is really important. Same year, so these two sheep, we identified out of 250 of having something we needed, all right? People would say, why would you touch this sheep as being something that was special? For us, he was brilliant for growth. So he was top end of growth that we'd ever had. We visually assessed him as being structurally nearly perfect. He was brilliant on his feet and legs. He was just brilliant. But the one I loved, the one I love is these two here. He was down on fat and muscle. That's pretty much where we sat. But I knew I had a ram that covered it here. So I've got that. But this one here I loved. Him minus 1.2 for micron for them was pretty good. He looked like he had good wool. But he wasn't a wool producer. We thought he was a carcass sheep. We thought, shit, he's a great carcass sheep. But it's telling us that he's got good microinduction and good fleece weight. So we thought, oh, shit. I wonder how this will work. But now have a look at his data now with huge accuracies. Brilliant for carcass. He's actually positive fat. So we actually got a real bonus in that. The one I love is the one at the bottom, minus 2.5 on micron. So I've gone from having a sheep that I thought was a great carcass sheep in frame, no fat and muscle, but I've actually got a great wool producer. And you know what the funny part is? That sheep now, in a JIVET program, we've done a series of JIVETs with this bloke, and it's telling us he's got follicle densities, he's got progeny with follicle density of 120 fibres per square millimetre. And if Jim Watts was here, he'd be saying to me, Andrew, you know, that will drive your profit. And it will. So even back then, if I was smart enough, and now seeing that data, I have got a really good indicator that that sheep is brilliant for follicle density or has the potential. So it's another area. And when Julius was talking about the next genomics marker, I would love to have a genomics marker for follicle density. So we've got this. To the scientists, genomics works. Guaranteed great for our business, all right? Next one. This one. So then we added JIVET to it. So we had those first original information, so we used those two rams seriously in a JIVET program, all right? So with the JIVET technology, we were getting about 65 unfertilised embryos per ewe lamb. So we're getting massive numbers. Fertilisation was good, and then we were losing a lot of lambs. But within this program, we ended up with 55 ram lambs, and this is really important to show the genetic gain that you can make in breeding by using, so remember we've used the JIVET technology, the genomics technology, now we're adding the JIVET. So we've ended up with close to 500 sheep here that have been fully measured. We have full phenotype, we have everything collected on them. So then we got it down to selecting the top 70 rams within that breeding program. So out of the 500, so 12% of those, and considering that the AIs and naturals, these are high selection pressure animals. So they're not that much less than our JIVETs, but a little bit. So the top 70 rams, when we got it down, so we ended up with 12% of those that made it into the top 70 out of the 440, and 32% of the JIVETs. But then when we got it down to the rams that we really wanted to use in our business, when you have a look at the bottom one there was only 4 out of the 440 that we would use in the stud. But there was 16. Julius would be able to tell me, or some scientist would be able to tell me, but that genetic gain would be massive. I don't know if it's 30, 40, 50% genetic gain we made within that program. Merino industry for 100 years is probably lucky to have made one. This is the phenotype comparisons when I do the same at 10 months. We actually increased in that group 6.7 kilos on what we class as really high growth sheep. We increased in the JIVETs by 6.7 kilos. If I add that up, that's massive dollars. 1.2 mils of fat and 1.2 of eye muscle. That is staggering genetic gain. And that was 320 grams of wool in that group in a 6-month period, all right? I hate bills. DNA here, DNA does work. Like, there's no bullshit about it. The whole industry should do it. This year we're doing 3,000 now, something like that, full 15K. We do parentage with that, we do poll with that, genomics, and we put all the phenotype information to have really high accuracies. Phenotype collection is really important. Everyone still has to put their data in so that we can keep moving forward. We need as many players as we can in the industry. We've got GeneSeq, Neogen, we need others in the space. It's going to be big enough for everyone, and that will drive prices, and competition's good for everyone. JIVET and genomics, match made in heaven. IP security is really important because we've seen what's happened to the American cattle industry, where the IP issue is an issue. The one I want to say there, and this is one thing that I think everyone needs to go back to, everyone in MLA, RWI, everything, is we've got this MLP data that's been sitting there for 2.5 years and it's still not in our database. It will fix reproduction, all right? And I just want to touch back one I missed. Sorry, Alex, I know you're going to get cranky. This one here, we had no number of lambs weaned back then when we started that. When we have a look at plus 29 for this ram, the figures say that's what should happen, but plus 29 with 80% accuracy, we have got a serious maternal animal when we can have growth, fat, muscle, and plus 29. Why would you want to breed anything else? Thank you.